and welcome to this episode of Demystified as we unravel home cooking in a modern world. I'm Linda and I'm here with Paul. Hello, Paul.
Good morning, Linda.
How are you today?
Well,
Very good. And Paul, there's a lot of, I guess, in our community at the moment, there's a lot of fear about food and panic buying as we seem to be approaching an apocalypse
apparently.
in Australia. I know, it's quite disturbing watching the scenes. And it is frightening to think that there are so many people who are maybe, panic buying food that then will not be eaten, which is a great concern to our communities when there's so many disadvantaged people not being able to get any.
Sustainability's gone out the window.
Completely, hasn't it? All those
amongst
issues.
other things, but
And goodwill, all that goodwill's gone. And Paul, I know that you and I have talked about this before many, many years ago, and I know it's a big issue for you. Pantry Essentials. What can we do to help us
calm down a bit.
and also understand, there are some things that we can do
Yep.
now, some simple things that we can do
Yep.
to help ride through, any period of home time that you don't feel comfortable going out or you can't go out. So what can we do, Paul?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I suppose the beautiful thing about this, if you can take a positive away from it, is that what we might see, and it's not great for the restaurant industry, but what we might see is people starting to cook even more from home. And although, as you say, everyone's out, for want of a better term, panic buying, there are some things which I kind of think that should be staples in your pantry. And some of those things, of course, you need to buy. But a lot of them you can do yourself and make yourself. So everyone's going nutso at the moment for tin food, pasta, anything that's got a long shelf life. So what we also need to remember is that we can create shelf life, we can create shelf life with fresh ingredients too. So probably the main thing to think about when we're talking about fresh ingredients and what we can do with them, and I'm talking probably specifically vegetables more so than anything else, is get pickling.
Pickling.
Yeah.
Now that's something that my parents would have done back in the day when I was a youngster.
Yep.
So that's 400 years ago for those people.
Yep.
But pickling.
I mean, maybe not necessarily. Pickling amongst other things. So, as an example, we're getting into the cooler part of. Well, we're in autumn now, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah, we're in autumn.
We are.
And I've got a ton of tomatoes that just didn't plant early enough, so I've got a ton of green tomatoes. Now, I could just chuck them in the compost and happy days. But what I've decided to do now is make a green tomato relish, and I'll do pickled green tomatoes as well. All of these things are very, very simple to do, and there's very few vegetables that you can't pickle successfully. And you literally need vinegar, sugar, some spices, and whatever it is that you want to pickle. And it's not a difficult process, and some jars. I keep, as a standard rule in my pantry, a jar of pickled shallots, pickled cauliflower. Pickled shallots I'd keep a lot of because I use them a lot, and a chutney or relish or two that I've made myself. Now, from that, it's not just about spreading a chutney or relish on your sandwich, but you add that to the base of a curry, or you add that to even a pasta sauce. You take your pickled shallots and pickled cauliflower and chop them up finely and mix them with a bit of olive oil, and you've got a nice dressing for a piece of fish.
And one of my auntie's favourite recipes is relish on chops.
Relish on chops, yeah.
Relish on chops. She loves it as a marinade.
Yeah, and it's really, really versatile, really easy to prepare. You can do slow pickles and quick pickles. So quick pickles have got a higher acid content, which means it pickles faster. So they don't necessarily have to be kept for 3 months before you can use them. But yeah, what I would suggest to people is have 3 or 4 pickles in your pantry throughout the year, and buy your ingredients when they're in season. So at the moment, cauliflower is not the best at the moment, and cauliflower is a really good example because cauliflower is a summer vegetable. So there's not a heap around, so you wouldn't go pickling cauliflower right now because it's expensive and not the best time. But there's no reason why you can't go and get a whole heap of shallots, pickle them up, and what you can do with them is massive amounts of versatility in your cooking.
Are there any vegetables you can't pickle?
I mean, I'm using pickling as a pretty broad term. Most vegetables pickle up reasonably well. It depends on what you want out of them. So green vegetables will obviously lose their colour. They get that a little bit unappealing sort of colour to them. But that being said, you can make them into a chutney or a relish. So, I suppose it's a type of pickle if you like. But yeah, you don't need heaps because they are quite strong in flavour if you like. But yeah, so as a pantry essential with fresh homemade ingredients, that's one thing. The other thing that we haven't done yet on the site, but I will do in the not too distant future, is we'll go and get some tuna, and we'll essentially do our own sort of tin tuna, but we'll do it in mason jars or something like that, and we'll cover it in oil and steam it slowly over a long period of time and refrigerate it and have our own tin tuna if you like. So that's using our steam oven, of course, more as a bit of a workhorse and a bit of a tool. So with your pickles and stuff like that, you can sterilise everything, of course.
Yeah.
Put your jars in the steamer and away you go. So yeah, I suppose without getting too extreme about this whole coronavirus panic buying shopping thing, I think that's just good sort of kitchen management to have things there that are packed with flavour, super easy to prepare, and don't take almost no effort to build and make. And you can do jars and jars and jars and jars of pickles in one day.
And if you've got, like with your pickled shallots as an example, I know how much you do use shallots. Is there anything that you have to do to them before you use them in your cooking? Like
just drain off the pickling liquid. Nah, don't rinse them. No. And your pickling liquid, I mean, there are various, like I said, acidity levels for your pickling liquid. But if you do an equal quantity of vinegar, water, and sugar, that will give you a pretty good pickle. So if you're not doing much, 200 grams of vinegar, 200 grams of water, 200 grams of sugar, bring that to the boil and put some spices in there, mustard seeds, cloves, peppercorns, bay leaves if you got them, whatever. Like just give it a little bit of spice flavour. Pour that over your vegetables. Bring that up to the boil, pour that over your vegetables, let it sit and stand. And it'll keep, as long as they're submerged, that'll keep in your pantry. 3 months, 4 months, not a problem.
Oh, great. I do know how good the steam oven is for sterilising because that's what we did with our olives, which we are getting through. And
there's another version of pickling, like
salt and water.
Yeah.
And then olive oil.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. We're making olive tapenade for people at the moment to use it all up because the next batch are ripening as we speak.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, with other pantry essentials, I think things like, of course, some rice, some pasta, tin tuna's one I can't go past. Like, I have to have tin tuna because it's quick, it's simple, it's tasty, it's, obviously responsibly sourced tin tuna. But salt, pepper, just the basics. You don't have to go nuts. So I think where you can get volume out of simple ingredients, so go and buy a kilo of polenta. A kilo of polenta will give you, for 4 people in a household, 1 kilo of polenta will give you a part of a meal, and you can do so much with it. It will give you like a week's worth as a part of a meal, if not more. A kilo of polenta in volume will end up being like 5 kilos. Once you add liquid, milk or water and parmesan and butter or whatever, but you get so much volume out of it. And any leftover polenta, let's say you're doing a nice slow braise or something, you make some polenta, leftover polenta, pour it into a container, and then chop it up, put some breadcrumbs on it, and fry it, and you've got polenta chips. Like, but you're getting massive amounts of volume out of something that's quite small. You don't need lots of. You don't need to go and buy 50 kilos of polenta. To, you know, so if for all of those that are out there panicking, just don't go buy what everyone else is buying. Think about it and buy something different. Buy ingredients that do have good shelf life, that also have a lot of punch. So things like dried fruits are a very good choice, because you can put a small amount of dried fruit into a braise or something like that, and you get a lot of flavour out of it. You can add 4 prunes to a lamb tagine, as an example, and it gives you a lot of flavour and a lot of punch. It fills you. It's good for your body. Like, there's whole lots of things. So you don't need to go and buy 100 kilos of pasta and live off pasta. And to be honest with you, like, no one's going to be locked up for that long.
That's true. And we had people for dinner on Friday night, and there was no staples in there. It was tapenade that we'd made, and some crackers.
Yeah.
Roast beef
Yeah.
with a whole lot of veggies, and homemade ice cream afterwards.
Yeah.
Which was easy.
Yeah.
And none of that was stuff that people are panic buying over.
Yeah.
One of the things that you taught me years and years ago when we first started cooking with steam was the value of stock.
Yeah.
And
well, that's a good one. Yeah.
I think stocks are something that, particularly like my friend who's Italian, her mum years ago would get the chicken, put it into some cold water with some carrot and onion, and bring it to the boil slowly, and had this great stock which became soup.
Yeah.
And then she'd take the chicken out and roast it,
Yeah.
dry it off in the oven, and have some salad or potatoes with it.
Yeah.
And that soup, if you didn't use it that night, you could use it another night.
Yeah.
She'd put in some, other little veggies or some risotto.
Yeah, I mean,
so simple.
A lot
things
of people will do a roast chicken once a week. It's pretty, a version of a roast chicken once a week. It's pretty common, sort of, relatively easy to manage, understand meal. The thing is they get this really nice chicken and they take all the meat off it, and then they're left with this carcass, and that generally ends up going in the bin. Now, that chicken carcass that's been roasted and all the bones that are attached to it, put that in a pot of water. Don't have to make 50 litres of stock. We're not in a commercial kitchen. But put that in a pot of water, bring it up to the boil, and let it simmer for about 2 hours. Now, you can add spices and whatever you like to it. But that carcass, because it's been roasted, it's got so much flavour in there, you'll end up with what's known as a brown chicken stock, if you like, because it's a roasted carcass. The best way, I think, to keep stock for home use is in ice cube trays.
Ice cube trays?
Yeah. So you make your stock, you let it cool, and then just pour it into ice cube trays. Stick that in your freezer, and then when you want some stock, you just pull out as many cubes as you like and bring it up to temp. Because it's hard to manage liquids in a freezer. Bags aren't great, but ice cube trays, or a version of, is a pretty good way to do it. But yeah, if you're going to buy chicken or anything with a bone on it, really, you remember you've got potential there to make something after as well, and to make a base for make a stock and then turn it into soup, and you add some pickles to it, and then some shredded chicken, a little bit of pickles, some fresh herbs from the garden, and maybe some noodles and a bit of soy sauce, and you're sort of creating some sort of little broth type situation, which, if you aren't feeling good,
is perfect.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is just you don't need to stretch your ingredients out to a point where they're no longer good, but just think about what ingredients you're going to buy if you are in the situation where you think you need to buy a year's worth of ingredients. Maybe think about what the ingredients are that you're going to buy before you buy them. Just because everyone's buying pasta, that doesn't mean it's the right choice.
No.
So I think you're better off buying semolina, polenta, couscous probably is one. I mean, you can make couscous, of course, from scratch. and some flour. If you want to do, you're going to have time on your hands if you are put into self-isolation. Pasta's not going to be a stretch. I mean, it's flour and eggs, and it'll be better. So it's funny if you're going to do rice, think about what you can do with the rice. I mean, you don't just have to do boiled rice or steamed rice. You can get your rice and toast it until it goes nice and golden brown, and then crush it in a mortar and pestle and add that almost as a seasoning to chicken, to things. So I think what I'm trying to say is buy less ingredients, but think about how to stretch them out and do different things with them.
And products like eggs.
Yep.
Having eggs and some cheese.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've also always talked about, I think we have previously done sort of Pantry Essentials or written an article or a blog or something on it. But yeah, eggs, butter, olive oil, salt, vinegar. Lemon is a good one to have on hand if you can. A little bit of cheese, and get a hard cheese, I think. A hard cheese, it gives you a little bit more versatility because you can cook with it and stuff. But, I mean, stuff that people know, but, sugar, flour, really, from all those you can create the base of, so many meals. I mean, a lot of people have seen MasterChef, and they do, a mystery box challenge, and they'll give them random ingredient, a guinea fowl, mushrooms, some sort of weird sea lettuce, and who knows, right? They give them this mystery box of stuff, but in every one of those mystery box challenges, they also have access to what they call pantry items, which are salt, butter, olive oil, just those things, because really they're just concentrating on a protein, but from everything else you can do so much, milk. If you've got milk, flour and butter, you can make a white sauce. It's a mother sauce. It's the basis of so many different things. You can thin that out with some stock which you've made, and then all of a sudden you've got what's called a velouté. You can.
And you don't need much flour. You don't need 400 kilos of it.
No.
We've seen people in our shops buying packets and packets of flour that.
Yeah.
Are they going to go home and make bread every day?
No.
Because if
they are, great.
But we can still buy things in our shops. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
So and okay, a few tins of tomatoes and whatever, but you just don't need to go nuts with it. And I mean, one of my favourite dishes of all time is spaghetti with olive oil and garlic and a little bit of chili.
Oh, it's you and Doug.
Yeah.
Favourite.
Yeah, but it's
simple.
3 ingredients. It is absolutely delicious. Takes no time to cook, no time to prepare. So you don't need 5,000 ingredients to make really good food. You just don't. You need good ingredients, but just think about other ways to use them other than what you've done before.
And there's a lot of other meats. I know. I just laughed to myself when I heard that mince meat was now run out the shelves.
Yeah.
Because it's always the last packet meat that gets sold normally.
Yeah.
Particularly around Christmas. But there's other cuts. There's other ways of taking foods and bulking them out.
Yeah.
As you said, with vegetables, some sauce, some curries.
Yeah.
Casseroles.
Yeah.
There's many ways of taking some food and making a little bit more and having it.
Yeah.
If you are worried about being at home, there are some things that you can do. Call on friends to deliver food to your door.
Yeah.
You don't.
Oh, well, I mean,
you complete isolation.
If you can't get mince, get let's just say get a lamb shoulder on the bone. Take the meat off the bone, finely dice it, make a ragu. You're still doing a similar thing, but just make a ragu, and then you've got a ragu for your lasagna, a ragu for your gnocchi, a ragu for your pasta, a ragu for anything you like, a toasted sandwich. Just because you can't get exactly what you're used to getting, it's not the end of the world. This is the
Apparently.
thing.
I think we've watched too many apocalypse and zombie movies.
I hate them too. That's the thing. I hate those movies.
Oh, I love them.
Yeah.
But we're not there. We are we are living in a modern world with food delivery, so we can just
and just be,
be mindful that
be kind to people that, maybe can't cook, or don't have the physical ability to cook, and let them get the pre-prepared.
and don't let your anxiety get on top of you.
Mm.
We are going to be okay.
Yeah.
We have still living in a very modern world.
Yeah. And I mean, like,
we have resources.
Yeah. And, 100 years ago, okay, different story.
But we're not there.
Yeah, we're not there. And we've got to remember, we produce enough food globally to feed the globe like 4 times over. Like, every year.
And Australia produces enough meat and enough vegetables to feed us.
Yeah, exactly right.
On an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
And we do make things here still, which was surprising. I think we all at first thought that all of our produce came from China, all of our home goods, our supplies. And we've now realised that we do make things in Australia, which is actually a really good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we just need to calm the farm a little bit.
And think a little bit differently about, like you said before, a tagine.
Yeah.
Which can be in a tagine, or it can be in a casserole pot.
Yeah.
Any pot with a lid that just lets the steam generated within the container cook, and cook it on a slow, long time if you have the time. If you're going to be at home and you're feeling like you do need to spend some time at home away from people, cook slow, long and slow, and have proteins and vegetables so that you've got that meal over 1 or 2 nights. And save some of those staples for times when you have run out or you don't need them.
Yeah. No, and that's probably a really good piece of advice. Save the staples for when you really do need them. But just, I mean, this is only through experience over, and we've talked about it over this past weekend, is seeing people buy to, like, absolute extremes, and knowing that, as you said, in the not too distant future, once this settles, as far as the whole coronavirus, once it settles a little bit, people will be left with oodles and oodles of food, and then it will have a use by date or a best before date, and it'll end up in the bin. And it is just like,
it's going to be appalling.
Yeah, it's. People are doing it with appliances. They're buying
chest
freezers.
Freezers are in high demand and sold out.
Yeah, and
freezers.
that's like.
What are we? It does my head in, Paul, to think that we've turned so quickly against each other in our community.
Well, the funny thing was, I mean, in the recent past, we saw how good people, when they come together, can be with the bushfire situation.
But I think what we found now, Paul, is that you can be good when it doesn't cost you anything. The minute you think your little patch is going to be somehow compromised, then we've forgotten our basic humanity. That we are all in this together.
Yeah.
We will get past. We live in Australia. We're really lucky. We've got more food than we export.
Yeah.
We've got manufacturing going on, bringing in our other supplies.
Yeah. And worst case scenario, go down to a pier, get a fishing rod, and catch some fish or catch some calamari, or if you're that concerned about not being able to get it, pretty much you can get it here.
You can get it here. Then there's some of the smaller butchers. Keep some of the small retailers going.
Yeah, and don't not support them. Yeah, and don't not support local cafes and restaurants and things like that. Having come from that industry, I can see the writings on the wall as far as people not going out anymore and not being social. Now, there are a few, but there's not that many restaurants that can, at one point in time, hold 500 people. So you might have restaurants that hold 50 people. It's not a problem going to a restaurant that holds 50 people. Don't not support that industry. And the only reason, I mean, there's a lot of industries in trouble, but don't not support those industries as well, because hospitality will, as you would know, doing what you do, hospitality is a fine line industry. Once things like this happen, a lot of places shut down pretty quickly.
Oh, I feel for all the businesses, because they've still got to pay their rent, and it's a huge issue.
Yeah, but
it is short term.
It is short term, and I think although we've sort of gone off tangent a bit, I think when we talk about pantry essentials, before you decide what they are, think about how you can stretch ingredients in different ways, so you don't have to buy as much, so there's enough for other people to buy.
That's right. Making a white sauce and making tuna pasta, as an example, requires an extremely small amount of flour.
Yeah.
So when you've bought your 30 kilos and you're looking at ways of using it...
over the weekend I saw people buying... I went to a food wholesaler and I saw people buying 25 kilo bags of flour. Now, I bake bread often. I do all sorts of things, make pasta, all sorts of stuff with flour, and a regular household getting through 25 kilos of flour it's a big ask. It's a long time before all of that's going to get used, and I would more likely say than not that you're probably going to have bags and bags of flour being thrown out as well. It's just like, what
a waste.
Yeah, absolute waste. So and that's probably a best example is, something like flour. You only need 400 grams, if not less, to make a big loaf of bread that will last you 2 days.
Yes.
Like 400 grams. It's just, it's a little bit out of control, but I think what I'm trying to say is just make sure you buy enough to make yourself feel comfortable, but think about what you can do with it. Flour is not just for bread making. It's a good base for your sauce. You can stretch these things out, so you don't need 25 kilos. Buy a kilo, 2. Buy 2 kilos of flour. Buy a kilo of polenta.
Madness. It's just madness out there at the moment.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is if people continue to shop like this, it's the people that can't afford to bulk buy, can't afford to, can't get to the markets or supermarkets or grocers or delis or whatever, and they're getting chewed up and spat out. Like, it's just not able to keep up with younger, fitter, more cashed up people. So, just stretch your ingredients, make some pickles, have a look at your pantry and go, okay, if I have a tin of tomatoes, what can I do with that? How many meals can I get out of a 400 gram tin of tomatoes? Because you can get 2 meals out of it quite happily. It's 200 grams and you can feed 4 people. If you're smart with how you use it, you'll get more out of it. It'll cost you less. Everyone has access to it. Like, there's a lot of benefits to it. So
And I love your idea about repurposing the carcass of a chicken or the bones from a roast.
Yeah.
If you've made it, because that's a great idea. And you get soup or stock. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So, I think with your pantry essentials, they're not just pantry as in, the stuff that sits in the dry pantry. A pantry essential to me is things like stock, which go in your freezer, is, pantry stuff can go in your fridge and freezer. It's not, don't just think of it as, okay, I've got to have pasta, rice, flour.
I'm not sure what they were going to do with it all, but...
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Paul.
No worries.
Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Demystified as we unravel home cooking in a modern world. We'd love your feedback and for you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.